everybody, Brian Bauman from Bauman's Farm and Garden. Our bare root roses just arrived. It's one of my favorite times of the year because it means that spring is right around the corner. Bare root roses are one of those first plants that we can get started for the coming year. But the first step in finding the right bare root rose for you is picking out the right rose. There's lots of different types. First and foremost, climbing roses, pretty self-explanatory, roses that are going to climb. The second type of roses is a hybrid tea rose. These type of roses are the ones with the nice long stems that work great for cutting. The bloom time is typically a little bit shorter with them. They just don't have as many blooms, but you're gonna get those perfect long stemmed roses for cutting using in vases. The next type is a grandiflora. It's kind of a step down from the hybrid tea in that it won't have just single long roses. It's gonna have more of a cluster of roses on the end of the stems, but they still work great for cutting. There's going to be more of them than you'll have in the hybrid tea, and their bloom time is a little bit longer. Last is a floribunda. Floribundas are going to have tons of flowers on the top. They don't work as great for cutting because they're not as long stemmed and there's multiple roses on the end of each stem, but they last a lot longer. The bloom time is going to cover a much longer period of time. So it really depends on what's going to work best for you and your garden in terms of the type of rose that you'd like to pick. For today, I'm going to grab one of my favorites, Double Delight. It's this beautiful red rose with kind of a white center to it. It's absolutely gorgeous, has a great fragrance. All the roses at the farm, we have a couple different vendors that we get roses from. They have great tags on them with really great information, nice pictures, how strong of a scent it has. So it's a really great option. All of them are kind of packed in soil so they stay moist, but once you've picked out the perfect rose, I'm gonna head in and show you how to get this planted. All right, we're out in our brand new space out at the farm where people can come and sit on the yard, and I thought, what a great spot to put a brand new rose that smells terrific and greet people as they're coming out to the farm to enjoy the day. When you're grabbing a bare root rose, one of the things you first want to remember, at the farm, we have all of our roses kind of hilled in wet soil so the roots stay hydrated. If this is a rose that you got through the mail or you picked out a garden center where the roses were not kept hydrated, you'll want to soak this in water for up to a day ahead of time, just so that the roots start soaking up that water. Ours are already in soaked soil, so they should be just fine. When you're digging a hole to put them in, the idea is that the hole is going to be slightly larger than the rose itself. So this is about 10 inches across, so a 12 to 14 inch hole should work just fine. This particular area of the garden is brand new. So the soil is brand new, there's lots of nutrients in the soil, I'm not too worried about it. So all that I'm going to add when I plant this is a little bit of Biotone Starter Plus. And what Biotone does is it's really going to, as the roots start to come out from the rose, it'll feed those feeder roots really, really quickly and get the roots really well established, and then off they go into this really great soil. If you don't have great soil at home, it would be a good idea to add a little bit of soil amendment or compost to kind of help those roots when they get started. Land and seed compost from Espoma is excellent. It's what we recommend. So first and foremost, let's get some of that Biotone started in here. I love the fact on the Biotone that it has these resealable bags. So I'm not going to use it all at once. So it takes just about a cup. I'm going to pour a little bit into the bottom of the hole to get it started, mix that in a little bit. Then we're going to mix about a cup of it into the soil that we dug out. You can see roses have almost like a pyramid shape to them. So sometimes in the bottom of the hole, I like to take some soil and create almost like a mound in the center that the rose is going to sit on. And I always want to make sure that all the roots are pointed down. If they're pointed up, if the hole's too small, the roots start growing up, and that's not what we want. We want them to get down and get into that water so that they'll be well established throughout the summer. Most roses that you get are going to be grown on a rootstock. So the bottom part of the rose is actually a different type of rose. It's a type of rose that has better roots. And then they've grafted on top the rose that's in the picture. In this case, Double Delight. The cane's on top here above the graft. There are different options on whether or not you are going to bury the rose below the graft. I've seen lots of videos and options where people really put it down low so that the rose has more stability. In the Northwest, I find since we have such wet springs and stuff, the roses get started pretty quickly. You can end up with some other issues if the graft is below the ground. I like to keep my graft right at ground level. It's a good way to kind of keep an eye on the rose, see how things are going. And then during the fall and the winter, I'll take my compost and kind of peel it up over the top of it. That way it'll protect it during the winter time. And then in the spring, off it goes. So for this case, we're gonna keep it just right at ground level. We'll take that amendment that we added, the Biotone Starter Plus 2, and as you fill your hole, I get some of the dirt in there, and then I give it a good shake. And the idea is that the soil is gonna fall around the outside of the rose and through the roots, so that we get dirt all the way around and throughout the roots of the rose. Rose canes really like to stay moist. And oftentimes this time of the year in the winter in the Northwest, you really don't know what's coming our way, right? It could be snow, it could be rain, it could be sunshine for a couple days, especially if we have a couple windy days with some sunshine, it'll really dry out the canes, and that prevents the buds from really emerging really well. So if we have a couple dry days, I'm gonna keep this moist. Like, I want it moist all the time. I don't want it to dry out. That'll really help it get started and get it off and going. Even though chances are we're gonna be wet throughout the winter, it's good to keep an eye on it. And this is how you get bare root roses started in your garden. We look forward to seeing you soon at the farm, so come on out. We've got a great selection of bare root roses right now.